Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown.
I don't remember.
So yep, I'm shooting from vacation yet again, but luckily this time I figured out an arrangement that I can be a bit more scripted than my usual misadventures thousands of miles from home. Still gonna try to keep this somewhat brief though, especially when we got an album bomb that I've actually already reviewed at length. Well, somewhat in an On the Pulse short. However, we still have a major event even outside of that, and that takes us to our brand new debut at number 1, Freaky Girl by Nicki Minaj. I'll admit I'm a little bit stunned that she finally got that solo hit at the very top, but by the looks of the sales and the streaming push, Nicki Minaj has finally been able to mobilize her fandom and actually play the game in 2022. Honestly, given how much that she cares about the numbers, I'm a little bit shocked it took this long. But it was enough to roll over as it was by Harry Styles at number 2, as it seemed like it was going to peak on the radio and streaming took enough of a dip, although it was still enough to hold over About Damn Time by Lizzo at number 3, which might have better radio and sales, but without streaming it's not going to be enough. Now this pushed Break My Soul by Beyonce down to number 4, which saw its radio momentum evaporate and streaming fall off rather sharply, even despite mostly solid sales. And yet it still held up over Running Up That Hill, A Deal With God by Kate Bush at number 5, where the radio growth is remarkably solid, but streaming and sales have finally tipped over. Now this leaves Bad Habit by Steve Lacy to hold at number 6 thanks to really solid radio growth and entrenched streaming, but Sunroof by Nicki Yor and Daisy is looking to crash that margin on radio alone up to number 7. Certainly enough to overtake Wait For You by Future at number 8, which might have its stability on streaming, but it's kind of skidding elsewhere. The last 2 songs, they're reclaiming positions in the top 10 from songs that fell out. And while the streaming behind Mi Porto Bonito by Bad Bunny and Chincho Corleone is respectable enough to take it to number 9, I'm still thoroughly annoyed there's a radio push behind I Like You a Happier song by Post Malone featuring Doja Cat at number 10. Just move on to Wasting Angels with the Kid Laroi already. You're already priming for that as a single. Just do it. And you know what, in that spirit, let's get to our losers and dropouts. And outside of the Young Boy Never Broke Again album bomb pretty much just evaporating, the only one of the latter that's really worth noting is a Hotel Lobby, Unkin Few by Quavo and Takeoff. So much for any promised post-Migos. Funnily enough, there's not much in the way of losers here, as one album bomb is going to replace another. So off the debut, Staying Alive by DJ Khaled, Drake, and Lil Baby collapsed to 23, and Bad Decisions by Benny Blanco, BTS, and Snoop Dogg fell to 57. And the remnants of Beyonce's album bomb continued to fall off, with Alien Superstar at 67, Cuff It at 81, and Church Girl at 97. Outside of that, we've got 2 songs that seem to be getting rotated out naturally. Get Into It, Yuh by Doja Cat, which should snag its year-end list spot, and Cooped Up by Post Malone and Roddy Ricch that's likely going to fall short. Now, as expected, there's not really much in the way of gains or returns this week. Hell, there's more of the latter as Megan Thee Stallion sees Sweetest Pie with Dua Lipa back up at 49, Pressurelicious with Future at 80, and Plan B at 93. And as for our gains, well, the radio's gotten behind Bones by Imagine Dragons, so we're probably not getting rid of it even as it's rising to number 60. But what might be even more depressing is Despecha by Rosalia rising off the debut to 85. I'm sorry, she's just made way more interesting music than this, and it's kind of depressing that songs that feel so cynical are getting surges in the algorithms alone. But now we got the album bomb from Rod Wave, so featuring the songs that fell below the top 40 and neither are the best nor worst of the week here. Fading at 96, Time Kills Lovebirds at 95, Rockstar Heart at 90, Pieces at 86, I Know It at 74, No Deal at 71, Stone Rolling at 66, Sweet Little Lies at 51, and Never Get Over Me at 48. And now on to a slightly more reasonable list of our new arrivals. Unfortunately, starting with number 100, What My World Spins Around by Jordan Davis.
Can't imagine me living without this back 40 view on our peace and crown, watching you watch the sun going down. That's what what my world spins around.
Alright, Jordan Davis bought himself a little bit of goodwill thanks to Buy Dirt with Luke Bryan, but I've been down this road. From the title alone, I had the sneaking suspicion it would be some by-the-numbers boyfriend country. And yep, in the content, that's exactly what we got. The list of all the country stuff that he loves, but she is, of course, what he loves the most. But what might be more bewildering is the production here. The feathery percussion that seems like it's all building up to a proper drop with the stuttering riffs and nothing has a lot of weight or groove behind it. In fact, the entire song starts to feel more programmed as it goes on. Kind of a shame because some of the more organic warmth in the guitars seem to set up some promise, but at the end of the day, I'm reminded that this guy is chasing Sam Hunt's shadow. Mediocre at best. Number 87, Budget by Megan Thee Stallion featuring Latto.
Busted, you know this box is like my watch, this shit flooded. What's the price these bitches want it? Tell them up it. Without the money, I don't budge. What's the budget?
I mean, I'm not surprised this one charted, but it's depressing to say the least as one of the worst songs on Megan's new album. A big problem is the stock beat with the painfully stale-sounding melody, but the larger problem is Latto, who's just cementing herself as a wannabe in this space who just cannot match Megan's charisma, intensity, or wordplay. Her flow's more simplistic, the Joe Budden shoutout is tired, and more to the point, it seems like it's gonna drag Megan back with her, highlighting someone who could not only do this flex better, but also expose just how kind of hollow it all feels, especially given that Megan has hit a lot of these notes in her own content before. It's just so stiff, unlikable, not a good song. Unlike number 82, Ungrateful by Megan Thee Stallion featuring Key Glock.
Grateful I'm sparing you hoes. I been coulda fucked y'all niggas. Whole lot of fake ass, make ass, cake ass, hating ass, no money getting ass niggas. I really been sparing you niggas. Your girl hate me cause I been shitting on y'all bitches.
Now this is more like it. Yeah, Key Glock's not as good of a rapper as Megan is, and his guest verse does keep this from being properly awesome, but the hook is great off the warped pianos and the crisp trap percussion, the flow change-ups are very welcome, and as much as it does feel a little bit tired for Megan to go after all the gossipy haters, she's more descriptive in eviscerating them this time, especially trying to get to the roots of their jealousy across both men and women. Yeah, it's petty, sure, but the darker edge and sharper delivery absolutely help. It's a pretty great song. I'm gonna stand up for this one. Good stuff. Number 62, Her by Megan Thee Stallion.
Her, she. Take a pic, it's me. Tell your friends this her.
I mean, I get why Megan thought this would be a great single to push given the success of Body in 2020. And with that rubbery bass rollick and trap bounce for the club, the repetitive hook is gonna work, especially as she feels a little bit more playful on the verses, once again slapping back at her haters, male and female. But this hook in particular feels stiffer than it should against this production. It's more staccato, which has more bounce and flavor and could use more of an actual flow to run over it than instead of just repeating the word over and over and over again. And when the content doesn't quite feel as clever as I know she can be, like, I don't dislike it, but I'm not as fond as I want to be. Number 58, Forever by Rod Wave.
Forever and ever and ever. Forever and ever and ever. Forever and ever. Forever and ever.
Oh yeah, this song, just goddamn beautiful. The spare trap percussion that builds and is balanced phenomenally well. That liquid guitar rollick against what I could swear is a vintage saxophone right out of the 90s in R&B. I could have sworn it was a sample, but turns out it wasn't. And the guitar solo filling out that final hook, and Rod Wave croon rapping about how this girl won his heart, and even though it never really worked, she's gonna have his heart forever, and man, he sells it like it's truth. It's just a beautiful song that's so goddamn straightforward and earnest that when he says that he would have put aside his fame and success for her, you almost believe it. Just a really goddamn great R&B song. It's simple, but it works. I'll defend this. Number 95, Yungen by Rod Wave featuring Jack Harlow.
May wait for.
So here's something I didn't expect. For a song all about the come up with a surprising amount of details to their struggles, I was shocked how well Jack Harlow works opposite Rod Wave. I mean, you think it wouldn't work, given the contrast between the fractured earnestness and the very slick cool, but as the mix swells around the crowd noises, the vocal overdubs, the production gloss, and the trap percussion, it just hits that balance between the rough and the opulent that's often so difficult to pull off. And Jack Harlow switching up his flow in mid-verse, major plus too. I will say the song can feel a bit long in patches, especially with the extended press snippet at the very end, but I'll still call this a real highlight and one of the few collabs with Rod Wave that have actually lived up to the billing. Great stuff. Give it a chance. Number 21, Alone by Rod Wave.
Like you ain't worth shit, and I know that I ain't perfect, but you know that I'm worth it.
I mean, I'll say this for Rod Wave, he knows exactly how to kick off an album with some promise. The liquid guitars against the sandy trap percussion, dropping the angst right at the forefront with the first lines, post-breakup as he remains on his grind, and while he's doing it alone, he winds up with those around him that he loves just not being there. Although, let's be real, openly admitting to lying to this girl and playing the same old songs probably doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, even if it does feel very real. I'm not denying a song like this makes Rod Wave easy to empathize with, but it also highlights how his formula can become a little bit stale after a while. All I'm saying, even if it's a good song. And finally, number 1, Super Freaky Girl by Nicki Minaj. And now it's the big one, where Nicki reasserts herself on the scene, where the tracking wheat just so happens to overlap with Megan Thee Stallion so she can reclaim the spotlight. Some things never do change, don't they? Anyway, I did think Do We Have a Problem deserved better, and I'll also admit seeing Dr. Luke in the production credits alongside a big Rick James Super Freak sample left me skeptical, as this was some discussion describing this as a sister song to Anaconda. And while it's a relevant comparison, because while I've gradually become more tolerant of that song, it's more because, for as explicit as Nicki can be talking about sex, she always frames the lens from more of a guy's perspective. And not only do they never come across as actually being hot songs, they actually feel like Nicki's kind of dumbing it down and having less fun for that audience when she doesn't have to. Now, on the one hand, I do think the lyrics here are a lot less embarrassing compared to Anaconda, but that pre-chorus build-up and sheer mimetic appeal feels kind of dampened, and the spelling gimmick for the hook feels really damn clunky. Funnily enough, the Super Freak flip with the percussion build-up is actually surprisingly well executed, but with Nicki simplifying her flow and less of Rick James belting like on the intro, it feels like this could have been way more wild and fun instead of feeling as calculated. So while I'm not surprised it finally snagged number 1 on her own, it was engineered to do that, it just doesn't feel like it's as potent as a win as it could. So I'm just kind of lukewarm overall. And that's our week. Not a bad one, if the worst of the week's going to Budget by Megan Thee Stallion featuring Latto, with dishonorable mention going to What My World Spins Around by Jordan Davis. But for the best, yeah, Forever by Rod Wave is going to nab that. But honorable mention's a tie between Yungen with Jack Harlow and Ungrateful by Megan Thee Stallion with Key Glock. I'm sorry, I really like that song. Now next week, I mean, I don't expect Demi Lovato or Panic at the Disco to do anything of note on the Hot 100, so we might have a bit of a breather. Kind of would have preferred it on the week I have vacation, but we'll have to see there. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.